is nothing left for me in Ionia.
Even the wind has a path, brother.
Farewell, Yone.
May the spirit of Ionia guide you.
In my last video on Riot MMO class systems, I talked briefly about progression, and how in my opinion it should not come to a grinding halt upon reaching the maximum level. I believe being the maximum level in an MMO should merely mean that your character has most, if not all of the tools necessary for them to go out and explore everything the world has to offer. However, I do not believe that being max level should limit your character's potential for growth throughout the game. As you explore different parts of the world and interact with new places and peoples, you should learn new things, and in part gain access to new abilities that your homeland may not have been able to offer you. After all, Riot has built so many unique and distinct civilizations within their world that it would be an absolute shame for everyone playing their MMO if we could not visit and discover all of them on our own. Many champions throughout League's lore find themselves in distant and foreign lands on numerous occasions. Whether it be in pursuit of conquest or in search of peace, there are a litany of reasons these characters would venture out to explore the world. The call to explore becomes even more enticing when you think about your very own character in an open-world MMORPG. Typically, players want to see it all. But we don't actually know yet whether Riot intends to let players that start in Freljord or Demacia have access to the Immortal Bastion, and vice versa. From strictly a lore perspective, they maybe shouldn't allow this. But that doesn't mean you as a player shouldn't have the potential to earn favor with these foreign powers as you see fit in order to further your exploration of Riot's vast universe that has seemingly endless secrets to discover. I've played MMOs before that keep their players totally isolated and sheltered from one another if they pick different factions, even in PvP-focused games. Now, those games did have designated areas where you could run into enemy players and very exciting combats could ensue. Unfortunately though, like with all faction-based MMOs, this kept the player base separate and sometimes feeling incomplete or one-sided. Even if PvP is a considerable part of an MMO, and I will talk at length about this in a future video, I don't think PvP should be an excuse to limit players' access to their own community. Community is important, and I don't want where I come from to limit who I can work together and bond with. Even if I chose Demacia, and I encounter someone who chose Freljord, unless there's some kind of in-game event going on, like a war between the two nations, we should be able to work together to achieve common goals. I think working with players of different factions should improve both of your standings with that of the other, and thus put you closer to accessing that part of the world safely, or at least without being threatened by a kill-on-sight type of interaction upon trying to enter their villages and towns. A system like this would be very easy to implement. It could be as simple as reputations in World of Warcraft, only there would be ways to make your grind actually feel meaningful, not just painful. In reference to New World, I'd like to see something like their standing system where as you increase your reputation or standing with one of these places, your character actually becomes more effective in those regions. The more positive your impact on a civilization, the more it should benefit you to spend time within that faction's borders. The rewards for faction pride or faction progression shouldn't exclusively be, here, ride our pets. They should range from beneficial access to unique materials all the way down to being able to safely enter town. A simple example of this would be a Noxian player that wanted to access some Petricite weapons from Demacia, because he also hates mages. Now, I'm no expert on the lore, but as I understand it, Noxus and Demacia aren't always the best of friends. So, how would a warmongering Noxian player earn enough favor with the discriminatory kingdom of Demacia in order to enter their city and even do business with them? A simple start would be for the Noxian player to group with players from Demacia. If he or she were to start actually assisting players that were currently loyal to Demacia with quests and/or dungeons, I think that would be a healthy way to not only grind reputation with Demacia, but also encourage players within the community to play together. WoW has a system in place where experienced players can serve as a guide in something called a newcomer chat. I think it would be highly beneficial for the player base if people could enter a new player chat or something similar and ask if any players of opposing factions need help with quests or leveling, but then actually get something in return for helping out a newbie. Imagine if, as an orc player, you could gain reputation with Stormwind for flying to Stranglethorn Vale and teaming up with someone running a human for his Hemet Nezingwari quests. This system could be highly detrimental and abused when it comes to PvP, but again, I will discuss that more in a video about PvP. Taking this a step further, Noxus and Demacia are constantly repelling raids from Freljord in the north. If a Noxian player is dead set on gaining peaceful access to the major city of an opposing faction, choosing to help one side in a conflict that doesn't include Noxus would be an awesome way to gain reputation, whether it be a PvE or a PvP focused event. You should also be able to lose standing with these factions. Now, they should not naturally decay to punish players for taking a break or not playing the game. But instead, if you need to gain access to another region, for whatever reason, maybe you'd have to forfeit your prestigious reputation with Noxus in order to ascend to the higher ranks of Demacia, and gain access to all the benefits that come along with that. This could include things like unique crafting recipes, armor appearances and armor sets, different biomes to safely gather in, and so much more. You could technically just revoke your own standing with a nation when trying to make that final push towards proving your allegiance to another, and it could be as simple as toggling a box to be at war with them. However, I think this would be the perfect opportunity for the devs to implement some fantastic PvP events for those that choose to participate. PvP means a heck of a lot to me when it comes to MMOs, so I will likely be talking about that along with guilds and some potential for their functionality in my next 2 videos, so if you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button to see what's coming next. Ultimately, my ideal MMO is a game with as few limitations as possible on how I can play it. I want to group with who I choose to, and fight with who I choose to. Maybe my primary allegiance could only be to one nation at any given time, but I want to have the power to change that no matter where I start on my journey in Runeterra. The main character in World of Warcraft for many years was an orc that was raised by humans. I think it is unfair for players that are so invested in the lore of these universes to be denied the opportunity and the potential to attempt playing the game the way its stories are told. In the RPG Riot released called The Ruined King, you have characters from many different walks of life and many different homelands, all working together towards a common goal. With everything Riot has released about the way relationships work within their world, it just seems so unrealistic to me that they would put any kind of absolute limit on who you can choose to play with.